The heist begins. The space station, Sci-Fi Prime, floated silently in the dark void, a metallic beast orbiting a dying star. It was a place of secrets, where alien technology was locked away from the rest of the universe. But tonight, someone was about to break in. Jack Carter crouched behind a stack of metal crates, his pulse steady, his eyes locked on the massive vault door ahead. He wasn't a soldier, not anymore. He was a thief, and tonight's prize was the most valuable thing he had ever tried to steal, an alien time machine. "Cameras are down," whispered Lena, his tech specialist, through the earpiece. Her voice was calm but sharp. "You've got 3 minutes before the backup systems reboot." Jack nodded. 3 minutes. That was all the time they had to break in, grab the machine, and vanish before security caught them. Easy. Or so he told himself. Beside him, Rex, his muscle for the job, cracked his knuckles. "This better be worth it, Carter. I don't risk my neck for junk." Jack smirked. "Trust me, Rex. This isn't junk. It's the key to controlling time itself." Rex grunted, clearly unimpressed by Jack's enthusiasm. The job was simple on paper. Get in, steal the machine, and get out. But Jack had done enough heists to know that nothing ever went according to plan. Breaking in, Jack sprinted toward the vault panel, his fingers flying across the alien keypad. The symbols were unfamiliar, but Lena had cracked the code weeks ago. With a soft peep, the screen flashed green. "Vault's unlocked," Lena confirmed. "Go." The door slid open with a hiss, revealing a massive circular chamber. In the center, floating above a glowing pedestal, was the time core, a smooth black sphere, humming with power. Strange symbols danced across its surface, shifting like living ink. Jack took a slow step forward. Something about the air in this room felt wrong. It was too still, too quiet. His instincts screamed at him to stop, but they were on the clock. He reached out, his gloved fingers brushing the sphere's cold surface. The moment he lifted it, the room shuddered. Too easy, or a trap. Jack spun around. The vault door hadn't closed, no alarms were blaring, and no guards came running. "This is weird," Rex muttered. He pulled out his pulse rifle, scanning the room. "Where's the security? Where's the—" The lights flickered. A strange whispering sound echoed through the chamber, like wind moving through an empty tunnel. The shadows in the corners stretched and twisted. Lena's voice came through the earpiece, sharp with concern. "Guys, I'm picking up something. Motion signatures, but they're not human." Jack's grip tightened around the time core. His gut told him they weren't alone anymore. "Lena, how long until security comes back online?" "Less than a minute." Jack turned to Rex. "Time to go." They sprinted toward the exit. But before they could reach it, the shadows moved. The Guardian awakens. From the far end of the room, something stepped forward. It was tall, its body covered in black metallic plates that seemed to shift like liquid. Its eyes, if they could even be called that, glowed a deep blue, pulsing like dying stars. The Guardian had awoken. "Run!" Jack shouted. The alien machine moved with terrifying speed, crossing the chamber in an instant. Rex fired his rifle, but the energy blasts vanished before they could hit their target. Jack gritted his teeth. Not good. The Guardian raised one arm. A wave of energy erupted from its body, slamming into Rex like an invisible hammer. He flew backward, crashing into the metal floor with a heavy thud. Jack didn't stop. He grabbed Rex's arm and dragged him toward the exit. "Lena, open the emergency hatch." "Now." "I'm on it." The door behind them slammed shut, locking the Guardian inside. But Jack knew it wouldn't hold for long. Escape, but not safe. They reached the docking bay, where their stolen jump ship waited. Jack tossed the time core into the ship's containment field and pulled Rex aboard. The moment the hatch closed, Lena fired up the engines. The ship roared to life, its thrusters blasting them away from Sci-Fi Prime. Jack took a deep breath. They had done it. They had stolen a time machine. But something still didn't feel right. He turned to the time core. Its surface was no longer smooth. It was changing, shifting into strange new patterns. Then, a deep voice echoed through the ship. "You cannot run." Jack's blood ran cold. The Guardian wasn't trapped. It was coming for them. The Guardian awakens. Time is not on their side. The stolen time machine hummed with eerie energy in the cargo hold of the jump ship. Its smooth black surface, once still, now shifted like liquid metal, symbols glowing and rearranging themselves in patterns Jack Carter had never seen before. It felt alive. Jack's fingers hovered over the console. He had seen plenty of alien tech in his smuggling days, but this was something different. The air inside the ship felt charged, like a storm was about to break. From the pilot's seat, Lena's voice cut through the silence. "We need to talk about that thing," she said, her hands gripping the controls. "Because I don't think we stole just any machine. We stole something important." Rex groaned from the corner, still recovering from the Guardian's attack. "Yeah, no kidding," he grunted. He wiped blood from his lip, then winced. "That thing threw me like I was a damn ragdoll." Jack exhaled slowly. "We got out. That's what matters." But even as he said it, something felt off. They had escaped the Typhos Prime station. No alarms had chased them. No ships had followed. It had been too easy. And Jack Carter never trusted easy. A presence in the dark. As the jump ship cruised through deep space, a strange feeling settled over the crew. The lights in the cockpit flickered. The air grew thick, heavy with something unnatural. Lena's fingers danced across the ship's control panel. "I'm picking up a frequency, but it's not from us." Jack frowned. "You saying someone's tracking us?" "No, I'm saying it's coming from inside the ship." Rex and Jack exchanged a glance. That was impossible. The ship was sealed. No one else had come aboard. Unless... Jack's heart pounded as he turned toward the cargo hold. The time core sat there, pulsing softly, like a sleeping beast. Then, the ship's systems died. Every screen flickered off. The hum of the engines vanished. They were adrift in space, and in the silence, a low mechanical voice echoed through the ship. "You cannot steal time." The Guardian steps through. The air shimmered, like heat waves rising off the desert. The shadows in the cargo hold stretched, twisting into something more than darkness. Then the Guardian stepped forward. It didn't use doors. It didn't need to. One moment, the cargo hold was empty. The next, the Typhos Guardian stood inside the ship, its towering metallic form flickering like a glitch in reality. Its glowing blue eyes locked onto Jack. Rex cursed and reached for his weapon. "No." Jack grabbed his arm. "You saw what happened last time. Bullets won't work." The Guardian's voice was calm, emotionless. "Return the core." Jack clenched his jaw. Not happening. A deep rumble filled the ship, like something ancient stirring from its slumber. The time core pulsed violently, its symbols shifting faster, reacting to the Guardian's presence. The Guardian took a step forward, and suddenly reality itself glitched. For a brief moment, the entire crew saw something else. A vision of a world that didn't exist yet. A planet burning. A timeline unraveling. Cities folding into themselves, disappearing as if they had never been built. Then, they were back in the ship. Jack staggered, his breath ragged. What the hell was that? The Guardian raised its hand. Fight or die. The ship lurched, metal groaning as invisible energy rippled through the walls. "We need to jump," Lena shouted. "Now." But the engines were still dead. The ship wasn't responding. Jack thought fast. If they couldn't run, they had to fight. He grabbed the time core, ignoring the way his hands burned at the touch. It was like holding pure energy, pulsing and alive. He looked at the Guardian. "You want it? Then let's see what it can really do." Before the Guardian could react, Jack slammed his hand onto the core's surface. A shockwave ripped through the ship. The world fractured. And then, everything vanished. Lost in time, or trapped, falling through the unknown. Jack Carter had been in some pretty bad situations before, being caught smuggling illegal tech, nearly getting spaced by bounty hunters, barely escaping an exploding station. But nothing, compared to this. The moment his hand had touched the time core, reality had shattered. 1 second, they had been inside their ship, staring down the Guardian. The next, they were falling. Not in space, not toward a planet. Just falling through nothing. Colors blurred around them, endless streaks of light twisting and shifting in ways that made Jack's head spin. It felt like they were moving and not moving at the same time, like they were trapped inside a storm of broken time. Lena screamed. Rex cursed. Jack clenched his teeth, reaching out for anything to hold on to, but there was nothing solid. Just a vast, shifting void. And then, impact. A world that shouldn't exist. Jack hit the ground hard, rolling onto his back. Not metal. Not a ship. Dirt. He blinked, his vision clearing. The sky above him was a deep burnt orange. Strange black clouds twisted unnaturally, like ink swirling in water. He groaned and pushed himself up. His body ached, but nothing felt broken. That was a miracle. A few feet away, Lena coughed, trying to sit up, and Rex groaned as he lifted himself off the ground. Jack's eyes scanned their surroundings. They weren't in deep space anymore. They were on a planet. But which one? Jagged alien buildings rose in the distance, tall black spires that curved at impossible angles. Some were crumbling, others stood eerily intact, as if frozen in time. The air was thick, humming with something unnatural. It wasn't just wind. It was like the planet itself was breathing. Lena touched her wrist console, but the screen glitched out, flashing with unreadable symbols. No signal, she muttered. No ship, no idea where the hell we are. Jack turned slowly, scanning the ruins around them. That's when he saw the writing on the walls. Ancient symbols. The same ones from the time core. The truth about the planet. Jack's stomach twisted. This place, he muttered. It's connected to the time core. Rex scoffed, rubbing his sore shoulder. Yeah. And what does that mean, exactly? Jack exhaled sharply. It means we didn't just land on some random planet. We landed in a place that's been affected by the core's power. Lena's eyes widened as she stared at the ruins. Are you saying this place is out of time? Jack nodded grimly. Or worse, a timeline that shouldn't exist. Rex swore under his breath. Great, so we stole a time machine, got chased by a death robot, and now we're stranded in a reality that ain't even real. Love that for us. Jack ignored him, stepping toward one of the ruined buildings. Something felt familiar here, though he didn't know why. As he placed a hand against the stone, the symbols on the walls shifted, glowing faintly. A wave of cold energy ran up his arm. Then a voice whispered, not from his comms, not from Lena or Rex. It came from the walls themselves. You are not supposed to be here. Jack staggered back, heart pounding. Tell me someone else heard that, he said. Lena and Rex looked at him, confused. Heard what? Jack's throat tightened. He hadn't imagined it. He was sure of it. Something here was alive, and it knew they didn't belong. The Guardian has followed them. Before Jack could say anything else, a low humming sound filled the air. A vibration, like a storm building in the distance. Lena checked her scanner, but it was still useless. I don't like this, she muttered. Something's coming. Jack grabbed Rex's arm, pulling him away from the ruins. We need to move. Now. They sprinted through the crumbling city, dodging fallen structures and massive cracks in the ground. The sky darkened, and the air grew heavier. And then, the Guardian appeared. Not walking. not flying, just manifesting. One moment, the space was empty. The next, the towering figure of the Guardian stepped out of nothingness. Its eyes pulsed brighter than before, its body flickering in and out of existence, like it wasn't just here, it was shifting between multiple realities at once. Jack cursed. How the hell did it follow us? The Guardian's voice echoed across the ruins. Time is broken. You must be erased. It raised its hand, and the world around them fractured. Time is collapsing. The ruins shifted. The buildings crumbled backward, rebuilding themselves as if reversing time. The sky split apart, revealing glimpses of different realities. Planets Jack had never seen, civilizations rising and falling in seconds. Lena grabbed Jack's arm. This planet, it's unstable. Time here is breaking apart. Jack barely heard her. His eyes were locked onto the Guardian. It wasn't just hunting them anymore. It was rewriting the entire timeline to erase them from existence. We need a way out, Rex shouted. Now, Jack's mind raced. The time core was the key, but without the ship, how could they use it? Then he saw it. In the center of the ruins, half buried under rubble, was a machine. Not like the time core. Something older. An ancient portal. Jack's instincts screamed at him. That's our way out. But could they reach it before the Guardian erased them from existence? He didn't know, but they had no other choice. Run. The Guardian's true mission. A race against time. Jack Carter didn't believe in fate. But standing in the middle of a dying city, with time itself unraveling, he had to wonder, was this always meant to happen? The Guardian loomed behind them, its glowing blue eyes pulsing like dying stars. The ruins around them shifted, buildings collapsing and rebuilding in reverse, as if time couldn't decide whether it was moving forward or backward. And at the center of it all, buried beneath crumbling stone, lay the machine, an ancient portal, humming with the same eerie energy as the time core. Jack's instincts screamed. That thing was their only way out. If they could reach it. If they survived long enough to use it. The Guardian attacks. Go, Jack shouted, sprinting toward the machine. Lena and Rex were right behind him, dodging falling debris and shifting ground. The air crackled with energy, reality itself breaking apart. Behind them, the Guardian moved without walking, phasing through time, appearing in different locations at once. Jack felt it before it happened, a pulse of energy deep in his bones. Then, boom! A shockwave ripped through the ruins, sending Lena and Rex flying. Jack barely had time to react before he was slammed against a crumbling wall. Pain shot through his ribs as he hit the ground, coughing dust from his lungs. Through blurred vision, he saw the Guardian floating toward them, its form flickering like a bad transmission. It didn't need words. Its mission was clear. Erase them. Restore time. The Guardian's truth. Jack gritted his teeth and forced himself to his feet. Why are you doing this? He demanded, buying time as Lena and Rex struggled to stand. Why does this machine matter so much? For the first time, the Guardian hesitated. And then, it spoke. This device is forbidden. Its voice wasn't just sound. It vibrated through the air, through Jack's skull, like it was speaking directly into his mind. Time was never meant to be controlled. It was meant to flow. Jack's mind raced. They had stolen the time core thinking it was just a powerful artifact, a way to manipulate history, to change the course of fate. But what if it was more than that? What happens if we use it? Jack pressed. What are you trying to stop? The Guardian tilted its head, its blue eyes flickering. And then Jack saw. Not a memory, not a vision, a truth buried deep in time. The future that shouldn't exist. Planets burning. Not just one. Entire star systems erased. Massive rifts tearing through reality. Civilizations unmade. Time loops collapsing in on themselves, trapping entire species in eternal suffering. And at the center of it all, the time core. A single device, small enough to fit in Jack's hands, yet powerful enough to destroy the very fabric of existence. Jack staggered back as the vision faded. His breath came in sharp gasps. The Guardian wasn't just hunting them. It wasn't protecting the machine. It was protecting time itself. A terrible choice. Jack turned to Lena and Rex, his mind spinning. "We can't use it," he said. "We have to destroy it." Rex's eyes widened. "What? After everything we went through to steal it?" Jack shook his head. "You don't get it. This thing, it's not just a machine. It's a weapon. If we use it, we could break time permanently." Lena hesitated. "So what do we do?" Jack looked at the portal machine ahead of them. The only way to destroy the time core was to take it somewhere it could never be found. Somewhere it could never be used again. But there was one problem. If they used the portal, they might never return. The final battle begins. The Guardian's eyes flashed. It had given them a chance to surrender. They had refused. Now, it would end them. A massive wave of energy exploded outward. Jack grabbed Lena and Rex, diving behind a fallen pillar just before the blast hit. The shockwave shattered stone, sending pieces flying in every direction. Jack pulled the time core from his bag. Its surface pulsed violently, as if reacting to the chaos around it. Lena's voice was urgent. "Jack, if we're gonna do something, we need to do it now." Jack's mind raced. They had one chance. One shot to get this right. He turned to the portal. If they activated it, they could take the time core somewhere beyond the Guardian's reach. But the Guardian wasn't going to let them. Jack locked eyes with it. And then he made his choice. "Lena, get the portal running." "What about you?" Jack gripped the time core. "I'll buy you time." Rex shook his head. "No way. You're not facing that thing alone." Jack smirked. "I'm not planning to win, just planning to keep it busy." The sacrifice. Jack sprinted toward the Guardian, holding the time core in one hand, his pulse pounding in his ears. The Guardian's form flickered, preparing another attack. Jack slid to a stop and threw the time core into the air, straight toward the portal. Lena activated the machine just as the core reached its peak. The portal erupted with energy, pulling the core toward it like a black hole. The Guardian reacted instantly, its form vanishing in a flash of light, phasing toward the core to stop it. Jack saw his opening. He lunged straight into the Guardian, tackling it midair. The Guardian's eyes widened in shock. Jack grinned, and they both fell into the portal. The last thing he heard was Lena screaming his name. And then, there was nothing. A desperate gamble. Falling through the unknown. Again. Jack Carter had never believed in destiny, but as he plummeted through the rift of time, he had to admit, he had never been more out of control in his life. The portal swallowed him whole, stretching his body into an endless void of colors, shadows, and screaming winds. But Jack wasn't alone. The Guardian was with him. They were both falling, tumbling through time, surrounded by flashes of worlds that no longer existed and timelines that had never been born. Jack clenched his fists, feeling the time core's energy burning through his skin. The Guardian reached out, trying to grasp the core before it was lost. Jack wouldn't let that happen. Not after everything they had seen. Not after what he now knew. If the core fell into the wrong hands, it wouldn't just change the future. It would erase it. The Guardian spoke without words, its voice carving through Jack's mind like a blade. "You do not understand what you have done." Jack gritted his teeth. "Oh, I understand perfectly. And I'm stopping you." The Guardian's eyes flared blinding blue, and suddenly, the fall stopped. Lost between time. Jack hit solid ground, gasping as his lungs fought for air. He rolled onto his back, coughing, disoriented. But there was no sky, no land, just infinite nothing, a void stretching in every direction. No color, no sound, except the faint, rhythmic hum of the time core, still clutched in his hands. The Guardian stood across from him, its towering form still, unreadable. For the first time, it did not attack. Jack sat up, rubbing the side of his head. Where are we? The Guardian's blue eyes pulsed. Nowhere, yet everywhere. Jack frowned. Not exactly helpful. The Guardian tilted its head. You have entered the fractured plane. This is where time bleeds together. The core has brought you here, but it will not save you. Jack looked down at the core, its surface now cracked. It pulsed weakly, its energy unstable. He swore under his breath. The core was breaking. If it shattered completely. Jack wasn't sure what would happen, but considering they were trapped in the space between time, it probably wasn't good. The true nature of the core. Jack took a deep breath. All right, machine. I need answers. What exactly is this thing? The Guardian studied him, as if weighing whether he was worth the truth. Then, for the first time, it spoke not as a hunter, but as a being burdened with knowledge. The core was not built to travel time. Jack frowned. What? It was not created to be used by thieves, emperors, or warlords. It was meant to be buried, forgotten. For it does not merely allow one to move through time, it devours it. Jack's chest tightened. The core eats time. The Guardian's form flickered, its voice a whisper of static and echoes. Each time it is used, a timeline is erased, a world is lost, a future it is consumed. Jack's blood ran cold. He had always thought of time travel like flipping pages in a book, going forward, going back. But the core didn't flip pages, it ripped them out. Used incorrectly, it wouldn't just allow someone to rewrite history. It would destroy it entirely. Jack looked down at the core again. The cracks were spreading. If it broke, would time itself collapse? And then, a new, more terrifying thought hit him. If time itself was breaking, what would happen to Lena and Rex? The fight for survival. Jack scrambled to his feet. I have to get back. My crew. The Guardian's glowing eyes pulsed. You have already doomed them. Jack's stomach twisted. No, no. There has to be a way out of here. A way to fix this. The Guardian took a step forward, and for the first time, it didn't look like a hunter. It looked tired. Only one way remains, it said. One of us must take the core and be erased with it. Jack's pulse pounded. The Guardian wasn't trying to kill him anymore. It was giving him a choice. One of them had to sacrifice themselves, take the core into the void, ensuring it would never be used again. Jack looked down at the dying core, then up at the Guardian. Could he do it? Could he erase himself to save everyone else? A final, desperate plan. Jack clenched his fists. No, there's another way. The Guardian tilted its head. What do you propose, thief? Jack smirked, despite the situation. You said this core devours timelines, right? So what if we feed it something bigger than us? The Guardian's gaze sharpened. You speak of a paradox. Jack nodded. Yeah. If this place is where time bleeds together, then maybe we can reverse the damage. If we push the core deep enough into the fractured plane, maybe it'll consume something so unstable, it'll burn itself out. Like an overloaded circuit. The Guardian considered. It is madness. Jack grinned. Yeah, but it's better than dying, right? For the first time, the Guardian didn't argue. Instead, it held out its hand. A silent agreement. Jack hesitated only for a second, then grabbed its arm. The moment they made contact, the time core reacted. A blinding light erupted, pulling them both deeper into the void. The fractured plane screamed around them, timelines snapping apart, reforming, collapsing into one another. Jack held on, focusing on one thing. Lena, Rex, the people he needed to save. As the Guardian vanished into light, it spoke its final words. Do not let history repeat this mistake. Then, everything exploded. The final jump, but a trap. Rebirth in the void. Jack Carter had died, or at least he thought he had. When the time core exploded, the fractured plane had collapsed, swallowing him in pure oblivion. Every nerve in his body burned, every thought stretched across infinity. And then he woke up. His eyes snapped open, and he gasped for air, rolling onto his back. Instead of the endless void, he felt solid ground beneath him. A sky stretched above, a sky that shouldn't exist. Dark, endless, swirling with colors Jack didn't recognize. He forced himself to sit up, his head pounding. He checked his hands, his body. He was whole, alive. But something felt wrong, because he wasn't alone. A timeline that shouldn't exist. Jack stood slowly, scanning his surroundings. He was in a city, but not the ruins from before. This place was alive. Massive skyscrapers towered above, sleek and gleaming, floating above the streets like silent guardians. Giant holographic banners drifted across the skyline, displaying words in an alien language he half recognized. The air smelled strange, electric, unfamiliar. This wasn't the past. This was the future, and something about it made his skin crawl. The streets were empty, not abandoned, not destroyed, just silent. No people, no voices, only the hum of the city itself, as if it were breathing. Jack's pulse quickened. Something was deeply, horribly wrong. The Guardian's last gift. He reached for his comms. "Lena? Rex? You there?" Silence. Then, static. Jack froze. The same static he had heard on the ship, back when the Guardian first appeared. His stomach twisted. He wasn't alone. A low humming sound filled the air behind him. A vibration, deep in his bones. Jack turned slowly, and there, standing at the edge of the street, was the Guardian. Jack's heart stopped. No, it couldn't be. He had seen it vanish. He had felt it be erased. But the figure before him was different. It was sleeker, taller, its metallic body fused with flowing energy. Its glowing eyes were no longer just blue. They shifted, constantly flickering between colors, like they couldn't decide what they were supposed to be. Jack stepped back, his hand inching toward his sidearm. "You're not the same one." The figure tilted its head. "Correction. I am the only one." Jack's mind raced. The Guardian had died. It had been erased, along with the time core. Hadn't it? Then realization hit him like a hammer. The explosion didn't erase the Guardian. It had changed it. The future is a lie. Jack clenched his fists. "All right, machine. What the hell is this place?" The Guardian didn't blink. The future. Jack narrowed his eyes. Whose future? The Guardian's body flickered for a moment, just a glitch, barely noticeable. But Jack caught it. Something about this Guardian wasn't stable. "This timeline exists because of you. Asterisk, asterisk." Jack's blood ran cold. "What?" The Guardian's voice echoed, shifting between different tones, as if multiple versions of itself were speaking. "When you destroyed the time core, time did not reset. It fractured. This reality is what remains." Jack took a slow, shaky breath. The world around him, the empty city, this wasn't a real future. It was a broken one. And somehow, he had caused it. A familiar face, but not quite. Jack turned, scanning the lifeless city. Lena, Rex. He muttered their names like a prayer. Where are they? The Guardian's form glitched again, and for a fraction of a second, Jack saw something horrifying. A face within the distortion. Not a machine's, a human's. His stomach turned. No, not possible. The glitch lasted only a second, but Jack knew what he had seen. The Guardian's form was no longer just machine. It had been rewritten, changed, and somehow it had taken part of someone with it. Jack's voice was barely a whisper. Lena. The Guardian's eyes flickered. Then, without warning, the world shattered again. The trap is revealed. Jack fell to his knees as the entire city around him cracked like a mirror. The floating skyscrapers twisted, their reflections rippling as if reality itself was struggling to hold together. The Guardian stepped forward. "You are not supposed to be here." Jack gritted his teeth. "Yeah, well, neither are you." The Guardian's voice shifted again, distorting between its mechanical tone and something human, something familiar. Jack's heart nearly stopped. That voice. He had heard it 1,000 times. Lena's voice. The Guardian glitched violently, as if it were fighting against something inside itself. Its arms shook, its form flickering between machine and human. Jack took a step forward. "Lena?" The Guardian jerked back, its eyes flashing between blue and red. "Lena is gone. Only the Guardian remains." Jack's chest ached. No. This wasn't just a broken timeline. It was a trap. A cage where the Time Core's energy had merged Lena and the Guardian into one. Jack clenched his fists. He had already lost the core. He had already lost everything. He was not losing her too. One last gamble. Jack's mind raced. There had to be a way to undo this, a way to break the trap. Then he remembered the Guardian's words. "You are not supposed to be here." Maybe neither was this timeline. Maybe it still wasn't too late. Jack reached into his jacket, pulling out the only thing he had left. A single, flickering shard of the Time Core. It was barely the size of his palm, but it hummed with unstable power. Jack gripped it tight, ignoring the pain as it burned into his skin. "Lena," he said, voice steady, "if you're in there, hold on." Then he slammed the shard into the Guardian's chest. The world exploded in light. Everything collapsed. Jack heard Lena scream. And then, nothing. The price of time. The collapse of reality. Jack Carter had never known what dying felt like. But as the Time Core shard burned into the Guardian's chest, he thought, maybe this was it. The world around him erupted into white light, so bright it swallowed everything. The sky, the buildings, the streets, everything folded inward, breaking apart like shards of glass. A violent wind howled, though there was no air. Jack felt himself being pulled in all directions, his body stretched, his mind unraveling as the last fragments of this fractured timeline crumbled into oblivion. And through the chaos, one sound cut through. Lena's scream. Jack reached for her, his hand grasping at empty air, at light, at nothing. And then, the world vanished. A return, but to where? Jack gasped, choking on his own breath as his eyes snapped open. He wasn't falling. He wasn't in the void. He was somewhere real. Blinking against the dim light, he pushed himself up onto his elbows, his heart hammering. He was lying on metal flooring, cold and solid beneath him. His eyes adjusted, and his stomach dropped. He was back. Back on the ship. His ship. The stolen jump ship where this entire nightmare had begun. The control panels hummed softly. The overhead lights flickered, struggling to hold power. The distant stars gleamed outside the cockpit windows, indifferent to everything that had just happened. Jack sat up, feeling like his mind was seconds away from cracking open. Had it all been a dream? A hallucination? No, it was too real. He could still feel it. Time itself shifting, warping around him like a barely healed wound. Then, a noise. A groan. Jack turned sharply. Rex. The big man was slumped against the far wall, blinking groggily. His hand went to his head as he muttered, "Feels like I got run over by a war cruiser." Jack's chest tightened. Rex was alive. Which meant Jack scrambled to his feet, his heart pounding. He grabbed Rex by the collar. "Where's Lena?" Rex winced. "Hell, I don't know, Carter. 1 second, we were on the ship. The next, I blacked out." Jack released him, turning toward the cockpit. "Lena, His voice was hoarse, raw from everything he had endured. Silence. Jack's breath quickened. No, no, she had to be here. He had heard her scream. He had felt her presence in that twisted, broken timeline. If he and Rex had survived then. A weak cough came from behind him. Jack froze. Slowly, he turned. A figure lay near the co-pilot's seat, barely moving. Jack took one shaky step forward, and then another. Then he dropped to his knees. Lena. Her skin was pale, her breathing shallow. Her short dark hair was damp with sweat, and there was a strange faint glow pulsing beneath her skin, fading in and out. Jack's throat tightened. Lena, he whispered. Her eyes fluttered open. For a moment, they weren't hers. For a split second, he saw a familiar blue glow, the same glow that had burned in the Guardian's eyes. Then it was gone, and she was just Lena again. Jack? Her voice was weak, confused. Jack exhaled a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. You're okay, he murmured, more to convince himself than her. You're okay. The cost of survival. Lena struggled to sit up, groaning. What happened? Jack swallowed hard. He didn't know where to start. We made it, he said. We're back. Lena blinked at him, still dazed. She looked down at her own hands, flexing her fingers. The faint glow beneath her skin had almost completely faded. Jack noticed something else. She looked different. Not in a big way. Not in a way someone else would have noticed. But Jack did. Because he had known Lena for years. And the way she held herself, the way she blinked too slowly, the way she tilted her head when she looked at him. It was off. Like a person wearing a mask that almost fit. His stomach twisted. Lena, he said carefully. Are you? Lena's expression flickered. For half a second. Just a flicker. Then she smiled. Of course I am. Jack didn't believe her. But he didn't say it out loud. Not yet. Not until he knew exactly who, or what, had come back with them. The final question. Jack helped Lena to her feet, keeping his expression neutral. He couldn't let her see the storm raging inside him. Rex groaned, still rubbing his temples. Can someone explain what the hell just happened? Jack exhaled. Later. He turned toward the ship's control panel. A glance at the system logs told him something disturbing. The ship had never jumped. According to the records, they had been in this exact position the entire time. Which meant no one would believe what had just happened. No one would ever know about the time core, or the fractured plane, or the timeline they had erased. Except Jack. And Lena. Jack turned, watching her closely. She was staring out the cockpit window, her fingers twitching slightly. Like she was listening to something he couldn't hear. Like there was still something inside her. Jack's jaw tightened. They had made it back. They had won. Hadn't they? As the stars drifted endlessly outside the ship, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed them home. Something that wasn't supposed to exist anymore. Something that wasn't supposed to be Lena. But that was the thing about stealing time. You never knew what it would take from you in return.